Welcome to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast with your host, Brandon Seigel. I'm a published author, speaker, entrepreneur, and private practice strategist dedicated to transforming the way that healthcare functions. This podcast is all about empowering you to create the change you want to see. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Private Practice Survival Guide. In this episode, we're bringing back the great Jamey Schrier with Practice Freedom U. Welcome back, Jamey. Today, we're talking about debunking the myths, what school never taught us about business, because so much of us are learning through doing, not learning through schooling. And so, Jamey, why don't we just jump right into it? And so, I guess my question is, what's the most damaging myth in healthcare practices today that's keeping practice owners broke and burnt out? Like, why are we failing at this job?
Damaging myth. That's a good one. I think the one that stands out to me the most is the idea of I need to do it myself. I call it the Home Depot way of looking at things. Do it yourself. I mean, think about this. You know, when we go back in school, and you're rewarded for doing well. You're rewarded for working hard, studying hard, spitting back information, and having the teacher give you praise. You start to separate yourself, in the class. And for the longest time, I think it might be changing a little bit now, but for the longest time, collaboration, at least when I went to school, Brandon, meant cheating. Mm-hmm. Collaboration meant cheating. You do it yourself. You figure it out yourself. And I think still many of us take this mindset and this attitude and this perspective, and we start this business. And I've heard of this through so many practice owners that I spoke about. They take this and they're like, Jamey, I got to do this. I feel like I'm failing because, I just got to do this myself. And I'm like, well, who says? Who says you got to do it all on your own? And what they begin to realize as I kind of dive in deeper with them, it's just because this is how they've been trained and conditioned to operate. So this idea of just doing it yourself, I don't need help. I can figure it out because I'm really smart. I got 4.0 and everyone told me how smart I am my whole life. I think that is a deeper premise of what's happening out there, or at least a part of that story.
Yeah. No, I think that's a lot of it. I think the other thing is a lot of people think that the business side is easy. So what they think is because they're a great clinician, they're going to have a prosperous business, and they forget all of the things it takes to run a successful business. They forget that there's a 50% failure rate with entrepreneurship, like all these different things. And so I guess my question is when you're starting to work with a private practice owner, what are the things that you're looking for in a practice owner in order to see that they have the potential to reach the success that let's just say you get a physical therapy practice owner right now that says, hey, Jamey, I'm doing $3 million in revenue, but I'm losing $700,000 a year. How do you combat that? What do you do? Because you have to obviously unwrap so much that they may be doing wrong in just their approach.
Yeah. My approach might be a little different than others, but when I'm on a call with someone, we call it a discovery call, and it truly is a discovery call. I want to understand kind of where you are, what you're about. There's really three primary things I look for. One, I want to understand, is your business model profitable? Not are you profitable? Your business right now could not be profitable. Like you said, you have a $3 million business, you're losing a fortune. But what I want to understand that if we work together, if we were going to help you, if you did everything we said, would your business be profitable? And what I've discovered, this is, doing this for 13 years now, hundreds of business owners, the mistake I made early on is I would just see the best in everybody and be like, okay, yep, we can help you. Yep, we can help you. And sometimes I would do the work, we would do the work together, and they would do everything great, and they're still not making any money. And what I realized is because we didn't look at their business model themselves, the treatment model. For instance, if you are seeing one patient an hour, insurance-based, and you are getting paid $50 an hour, and you are in a major city in this country, I don't care what else you say. You cannot make any money. It costs too much to deliver care. Well, there's a lot of people out there that they just make up what they're going to do. Like, I really feel like I want to get quality care. So I'm going to do one patient an hour. Like, they're not looking at the numbers. They're not looking at, the experience they want to provide people. They're not looking at any of that. Maybe they weren't taught it or they just don't really care. I don't know. But they don't look at that. So we have to look at that. That's number one. Number two, that's kind of my tactical thing. Number two, now we get into more of the meaty stuff. Are they coachable? Are they coachable? Look, if someone is not open to think differently, to hear something that might be different than what they believe, what do you want us to do? Right? Like, if you're closed off, there's nothing we're going to say. There's nothing we're going to do. And there's people out there that they're not bad people. They're just not open to our thoughts and ideas of how I typically help people, build and grow a business, which is fine. But that is a key thing. If they are coachable and they have a profitable business model, but may not be as profitable as they want it to be, and they may not have the time and flexibility and freedom that they want, there's one other thing that they have to have: vulnerability. Brandon, I think vulnerability is a freaking superpower. I want people that are real. I want people that check the ego and the pride out the door. I don't want soft people and weak people. But being vulnerable is just being honest with yourself. And I remember, ain't nobody had a bigger ego than me back in the day, bigger pride, big time, And I finally just, had conversations with this one coach in particular. And I just said, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's affecting me personally, physically, affecting my relationship with my wife. And I said, I don't want this anymore. I promise I will do whatever you tell me to do. If you can just promise me I won't have to show up on work on Monday. Because for some reason, Monday's just the freaking worst day of the week. And I hate it. And it was that vulnerability that finally just let me swallow my own pride. And what I realized working with, hundreds of practice owners over 13 years is that when someone comes in like that, it's such a power. They're vulnerable, they're real, they're willing, they're open to listen to ideas and help you guide them. I don't have all of the solutions. I'm not the end all, know it all, but together I know we can work through this. Together I know we can, take you on this path. And if you have those two characteristics with a business model that we know works, never failed yet with someone like that. Those are the things that we think are most important. There's a great saying for those people that do hire other people: hire for traits, train for skill. Too many of us hire a resume, which is basically skills of somebody, and then they come in, and then we find out who they are, what their character's like, and then we realize they're not the kind of person that are like us. Yeah. And that's what really causes the problems. So I've used that in my own hiring process with clients. So there you have it.
I totally get that. And you hit something that I feel like I preach a lot, which is the business model truly profitable potential? And I think I run into, so a lot of who I work with, just being very transparent, they prioritize the care over the profit center. And what happens is their mindset is so focused on helping others that they're afraid. There's like a scarcity mindset of prioritizing profit. and therefore the model doesn't work. What's an example of like when you've worked with someone that you might go through and you're like, you don't have a profitable model, like plain and simple, like what does that look like in your words with practices that you may come across in this process where you're like, look, you're great. I love where you're at. The model you're building right now is not a profitable model. What's an example you've seen in healthcare lately with that?
Yeah, this happened just the other day. So a gentleman from Jersey came to me. He's been in business, 18, 20 years, and he wanted to start a clinic. He had a different type of business, and he wanted to start a brick and mortar clinic. And I said, yeah, just tell me a little bit about what you're doing. And he told me his model, and I've done this long enough as you have, and you kind of know if a number makes sense or not. So I was like, all right, so you're collecting how much? Whatever it was, $80 a visit, and you're seeing people, hour, 45 minutes, hour, something like that. I went, okay. And then sometimes I'll just pull out my phone and start, just doing some numbers kind of. And then I would show him, I said, so based on what you're saying, if you're busy, 80% of the time, even 85%, you can generate this amount of money. He goes, yeah, well, how much do you pay your therapist? Well, I pay them whatever, 90. And I said, okay, and your overhead is whatever, like 20, 25%. And I said, okay, well, are you okay if you build it to $1 million? Are you okay making about 90 grand a year? If you build it to $1 million, right now you're at like 50,000. You just started your business. And he goes, no. And I said, okay, well, that's where your current model is right now. And then he starts negotiating. Yeah, but I mean, what if we did really good care? I mean, we're the best in Jersey. And I said, I'm sure you are. But numbers don't lie. I didn't want to say what I really want to say. Numbers don't lie. People do. But numbers don't lie. And I get you are grappling with this idea of quality care. I understand that for many people, quality care is an internal thing of how good you are and how good you want to be perceived. I get all of that. I go, but what your model that you created with you, and he told me this, I said, did you, go through this with a financial person, a bookkeeper? Did you run through some numbers? He goes, no. I said, okay, you just kind of made it up as you wanted to. He goes, yeah, the model doesn't work. And there's no way that we're going to help you build a model that doesn't work. So the question is, what do you want? Are you willing to perhaps engage in your philosophy, perspective, mindset, whatever you want to call it, and say, is it possible to provide quality care, whatever that means to you, and we can define it, and be financially successful? Is it possible? So that's the question I ask when I find someone that I know their model doesn't work. This person is still trying to answer that. So I said, you know what? When you figure that out and you're able to put a model together that can be successful with the right help, reach back out. So, I mean, that's the more experienced Jamey. The previous Jamey, 10 years ago might have been like, yeah, we can help you. Yeah, we can figure it out. And, it just wasn't going to work. And then, that's not going to end well. But, now I just seen it so many times. I realize this isn't a nuts and bolts X's and O's problem. This is a deeper seated identity of who you think you are. And this idea of quality care, because Brandon, I've never seen someone actually describe what quality care is that said the same thing as somebody else. I've never seen two people say the same thing. So this quality care is some made up, contrived thing based on our experiences, what we've been told, what our professions tell us, whatever it is, professors, that we get drilled this into us, but it's not real. It's not tangible. It's some idea. And we also get drilled that quality care somehow is connected to the profit of something. And we don't believe deeply that you can actually have both. It's like you go to a really nice restaurant. I went to a nice steak restaurant the other day, and it's like, I pay a lot of money. Damn steak restaurants, fortune right now. So I'm paying $65, $75 for a steak, regular steak. That was delicious. And the place was awesome. And the damn steak was expensive. The meal was expensive. But if I owned that restaurant as a therapist, I would say, I feel bad that the steak's really expensive. So what I'm going to do, I'm still going to pay my wait staff. I'm still going to pay the kitchen. I'm still going to pay the people checking in and all that, and the bartenders. But what I'm going to do is I'm just not going to take a salary. So we can lower the steak price to $40. It would never, no one would ever expect that, and no one would people would say that you're crazy. But that's how we're viewing our services. That's how we view who we are and what we do. The deeper problem is that. So when I find someone that is grappling with that identity, I will pause for a second and dive in deeper versus someone that is like, truly, look, I need help. I know what I want. I know I'm stuck in this place. I don't know what I'm doing. If you can help guide me there, oh my God, I'd be so appreciative. I'm ready to go. You tell me. Those people do great 100% of the time. So when I'm on a call, I'm always looking for those deeper things going on. Because if those aren't addressed, all the tools, all the fun stuff, all the AI this and AI that, and all that stuff you see at a conference, none of that's going to make a difference. You'll sabotage it all.
Yeah. And I'll double down on this, and I'll just leave us with this concept of, we have this, what I call subjective nature of defining quality care, as you said. But then there's two other prongs to it. Then we say we need to make that accessible to everyone, no matter what someone pays us for it. And then the third piece is we need to hire staff and pay them what they want, need, desire, and can afford to live today, the lifestyle they want to live based on the investments of their education that they've done. So now we've got qualitative care, accessibility, and paying everyone what they want. It's a broken system. And so the model is broken, in my
I would say the
opinion.
mindset's broken.
What was that?
The mindset's broken.
Okay.
That's a mindset issue. Like, that's what you think. Look, at the end of the day, our outcomes that we have in our life, more or less, the things that we control is what we think that lead to the decisions we make and the actions we take. So if we continue to get the same outcomes and the same results, and we know, we look at all the studies, we look at all the research and the surveys, it's not changing much unless it's getting worse. So if things are the same, if 80, 85, 90% of all practice owners aren't making it to the level that they know they should, and only a certain percentage are, and it's always the same percentage more or less, maybe not the same people, but same percentage, then the problem is how we are thinking about our business. And if that's the problem, and this is the stuff that I deeply have done so much work on myself, if that's the problem, then the real issue is what's influencing that thinking. And if we can change how people see their business, see what it is, see what it could do, if we can alter how they see their staff. I mean, I have people saying, my staff just cares about one thing, making money and doing nothing. And I said, well, you probably don't have a great culture, do you? Because, no, it's terrible. I go, I bet it is. You're already telling me that because of how you think about your team, who the hell would ever want to work for you that was actually an A player? So what has to change? You think the A player is going to come first? Law of attraction. We have to step it up. We have to shift how we see our business. I believe our business is a vehicle. This is what I think about private practice. It is a vehicle, an engine that helps us create the life we want, period. Now, how does it do that? We get to choose. We get to choose the people we serve. We get to choose how we serve it. But if that business is not supporting our life in the way that we want, what's the point? What, to struggle and barely get by? To say to yourself, I'm helping a few people, but you're like you're dying here? But this is like accepted work in our world. This is okay. Because why? Everyone else is doing it. So it must be okay. It's best practice. You get me fired up, Brandon. You always do.
I love it. No, and I agree with so much of this, and that's why I always say it's like you have to prioritize your algorithm, your destination. We talk about vehicle. I say we're a vehicle of change, and I say we have to identify the fuel that's going to get us to the destination. You want to work for nothing? Great. That's okay. You want to work for loss? That's your purpose. You want to work for profit. You want to change the mindset from scarcity to abundance. You have to answer some hard questions, and you have to reshape the way that your mindset executes for the future.
I'll give you a quick reframe. Do we have a second for this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a quick reframe. So I did this with a client the other day, a brand new client, and I said, look, I want you to think of your business in this way. Pretend your business is an art gallery. You are the curator of this art gallery. You keep an eye on it. You make sure it's doing well and all that. You're not necessarily the artist doing all the work. This art gallery supports your staff. It supports your patients that you see, supports your community, and of course, it supports you. Right? So the decisions you make have to be in the best interest of this art gallery. You as the curator, you are the one that's responsible. So when we start talking about your business, we start talking about what we need for your business, whether it's marketing or hiring or systems or whatever the case is, KPIs, all that other stuff, you have to look at it as you and the business are not one and the same. And I don't know when I started using that kind of analogy, but people have told me that really helps them kind of see that they just see themselves as I'm the business, especially if their name's on the door. And I know I've done this myself, but when people start to see it in that way, it almost gives them permission to make decisions that might be a little uncomfortable, but they realize it's the best interest of everyone in the business, including them. The biggest issue that I have seen, and I'd love to dive in more where this is coming from, but I'm still kind of doing my own observation and research, is we don't believe, for whatever reason, could be sports or it could be politics or whatever the case is, we don't believe everyone can win. We believe there's a winner and a loser. That is a scarcity mindset. Scarcity is someone wins, someone loses. And insurance companies are winning, so I'm losing, and everything. We could just keep on going. With that mindset, talking about how we think, how we make decisions, with that mindset, if your staff has to win because, they're treating the patients, they're hiring, they're asking for, like you said, whatever price they want, you need a place to do this in, you need to have all these other things. If they all are, quote, winning, the only loser is you. Even though it doesn't make sense, even though you don't want to be the person losing, but you are. And you buy into that by doing what? Doing what you know how to do, which is work more hours. I'm not saying hard work isn't needed. You start a business, you need a lot of hard work. I'm talking a few years into your business gets, 800,000, million plus, and you're grinding harder and harder and harder. You have to step back of why. Because all you know how to do is put more hustle and more work into something, but you're still not getting what you want out of it. And that's where the problem is, because deep down, there's winners and losers.
Yep.
If everyone would win, you would give yourself permission to not work as many hours. Because believe me, I don't think someone just says, oh, I love working all these hours. Well, you say it to other people, because if you don't say it, you have to face the reality is you don't know a way out. So I have so many people say, oh my God, I love Jamey, don't take away patient care from me. I'm like, oh, sorry, we're going to have to. It's the only way your team's going to grow is if you're not there as much. But don't worry, you're still going to do financially well and your team's going to love it. And so are your patients. Would that be okay? Oh, Yeah, that would be great. So frame, perspective, and challenging our own limited beliefs, those stories we've been told. To me, that's the only way through. And when we do that, results come quickly.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for joining us in this episode. To follow Jamey, visit his website, Practice Freedom U. Thank you for tuning into the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn, and together we can thrive, not just survive. Thank you for tuning in to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Exciting news. We're now available everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube or anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. So watch, listen, and reach out. If you love this episode, please drop a 5-star review. It truly means the world to me. Are you looking for more ways to elevate your practice? If so, now is your chance. Reach out, go to my website, or email me at brandon@wellnessworksmp.com. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.